What's going on, guys? Today I'm gonna teach you how to create a C or C++ virus. Now what it's gonna do is it's gonna copy itself in the startup folder so that every time when you reboot Windows it starts automatically. And then the second thing it's gonna do is it's gonna create a folder, and then inside that folder it's gonna copy a lot of irrelevant files for the purpose of wasting memory. Now this program that I'm creating is strictly for educational purposes, so I will not be held responsible for whatever misuse you execute with this program we're gonna create. Now in order to create this program, the first thing you're gonna need to do is download code blocks. Now to download code blocks, just open up your browser and then go to Google and type download code blocks. Click the first link and then click download the binary release. And then you're gonna click this first link here. It's gonna let you choose which website you wanna download from. I wanna just choose download from sourceforge.net. And then wait for the download to begin. Okay, now I've already downloaded code blocks, so I'm not gonna do that twice. So I'm just gonna cancel here. Okay, after you finish download code blocks, open it and then go to file, click new, and then project, and then go here, scroll down and click Win32 GUI project, and then frame paste. I'm gonna name this project virus. Let me say storage virus rather. You can name it whatever you want. Then click finish. And then after that, just go to your project here and then expand sources, click main.cpp. Now when you open this file, don't be overwhelmed about this code you see here, because we're not gonna use this code. We're gonna remove most of this stuff. So I don't need this method. I'm gonna remove it. The only important thing here is the main method. This main method will be executed by Windows. In a Windows application, this is what the Windows system looks for when creating a Win32 application. So I'm also gonna delete this code here, so that the Win main method is empty. And then I'm also gonna remove this. Okay, now what you need to do is include a file called shlobj. We're gonna need this file, and then we're gonna include standard io.h. Okay, and then I'm gonna create a variable here, call it h instance g, and then say h this instance. Okay, now h instance here is basically a data type that represents a handle. A handle is a number that uniquely identifies an object in Windows. Like for example, if you wanna change the text of a button, you would get a handle to that button and then do some operation on that handle, and whatever you do on that handle will take effect on the button itself. So in this case, h instance means that it represents the handle to the instance of our running program. So And then the other variable I'm going to declare here is a char array. I'm going to call it g underscore cs, and then I'm going to call it app path. It's going to have a maximum of 100 characters. This is going to store the current location of our running app. So I'm going to type stores the current location of the running app. Okay, and then I'm going to declare another variable, call it g, and then say csv startup path. Okay, now this will contain the location to the startup path, the location to the startup directory of Windows. This startup directory, anything that's stored there, Windows will automatically execute it. So I'm just gonna type stores the startup path of Windows, because now we want our program to run automatically after Windows boots. Okay, now we've declared our variable. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna declare an init method. This method will initialize everything we need to use. Okay, so I'm gonna say void init. Okay, now you've noticed that when I'm declaring my variable, I prefix it with g. Now basically g here means global. Now this is a typical naming convention when it comes to the Windows programming. So the SZ here means a string that is terminated by 0, because in Windows programming a string is just a sequence of characters. It's a char array. So for example, if I do this, let's say name, and then I say N A T E. Now what I need to do is put the last character here, which is backslash and 0. This lets Windows know that we have reached the end of our string. Okay, so that's why SZ here means a string that is terminated by 0. Okay, I'm gonna remove this, and then what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna call get module file name, and then I'm gonna provide the GH this instance, and then I'm gonna provide the CS app path, and then I'm just gonna say 100 maximum characters. So this function here, get module file name, this will fill our char array here with the path that leads to our application path, which is currently running. Okay, so h distance is the handle to our running app, as I explained before, and then it needs to fill the current this variable that we provided here, and then 100 here is a maximum number of characters that it's allowed to fill. This 100 is not a straight out announcement that we expect 100 characters. It's just the maximum that it's allowed to fill. So it's probably going to be way less than 100, even way less than 50. Okay, so I'm going to call the init method here, and then I'm going to call printf and say our file path, and then provide our file path here. I'm going to build this, and then I'm going to run it. You see, it lists out the full location of our running app. Now that it works, what we need to do is copy our file to the startup folder. So I'm going to need to call another method here. It's called sh get folder path. Okay, so I'm gonna say now for the owner, and then the important thing is this: it's the second argument. So it needs to know what type of special directory I want to retrieve. In this case, it's a startup directory. So I'm gonna say csidl underscore startup, and then I'm gonna say now, and then for the last argument I'm gonna provide this variable here. So I will say g underscore sz startup path. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is print out the startup path to check if this worked properly. So I'm gonna say startup path and then provide the startup path here. Okay, as you can see here, it's a proper path. Now we have that working. We need to move on to the next step now. Now what I want to do, I want to copy my program to the startup path, and then after copying it, I'm gonna run that program and then exit this program that's currently running. Okay, so I'm gonna declare a method here called copy self. It's gonna be a boolean. Let me see, it's gonna be a bool, and then copy self. I'm gonna say void, bool, copy self, and then what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna call a method called copy file. So if copy file, it's gonna be, the first argument is gonna be the path we wanna copy from, and then the path we wanna copy to. I'm gonna call that destination. Let me say sz dest, and then the last argument is whether you want the file to be replaced if it already exists. So I'm just gonna say true here. Actually, let me say false. And then I'm gonna create a variable here, call it sz test, then I'm gonna call straight copy. Now this function here is gonna copy everything. It's gonna make a copy of this startup path. So I'm just gonna say sz, and then I'm gonna say g startup path, and then and then I'm gonna typecast this to a string constant. I'm gonna say char. Okay, and then the next thing I need to do is I'm gonna append. Okay, now this function here, is gonna add another string on top of another string. So initially this will contain the path to the startup. So when you call strcat here, it's gonna contain the path to the startup folder and then appended by this string here. So I'm just gonna return false here because I do not want to execute this for now, and then I'm gonna say print to check whether it's a valid path here. Okay, so let me call it copy self. Okay, here is the full path to our location. It's working properly. Now what I need to do is copy the actual file. Okay, I'm gonna remove this return false, and then I'm gonna put return false underneath here, and then inside the if statement I'm gonna call return true, return false. And then I'm gonna return true here. Okay, let us run our program now to check if this worked properly. Actually, if this was successful, I'm just gonna say printf. This was successful. Okay, now now you can see that the antivirus detected this, so I'm just gonna disable this and then I'll come back to you later. Okay, I've disabled the antivirus. Now I'm gonna run this program to see if everything is okay. Okay, as you can see, it says this was successful. Now I'm gonna go to task manager to check whether this was actually copied in the startup path. And then I'm gonna go here to startup. Now as you can see, here is our virus here. So if it's listed here under the startup tab, it means that every time when Windows boots, it's gonna run automatically. Okay, so I'm just gonna open file location here and then delete this file. Okay, so now what's left to do is I need to check whether my current program is in the startup folder already. So I'm gonna create a method here a function, call it is in start a path, and then I'm gonna copy this, and then I'm gonna type bool is in startup path. Okay. Now I'm gonna create a local variable here, call it char, and then say startup path. Let me call it startup. Then it's gonna have a maximum of 100 characters, and then I'm gonna copy the startup path here. Yes, startup path. Okay, and then I'm gonna call this CS startup. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say if str, okay, if str cmp, and then CS startup, and then the module path, our current application. Okay, this function here, str cmp, is going to return the value of 0 if the startup path and the app of our location are the same. So if this is true, then it means our startup path, it means our app is already in the startup directory. So I'm just gonna say return true, and then I'm gonna call return false. Okay, I'm gonna remove this for now, and then say if isn't startup path okay, so if it's in the startup path, then we show a message box here saying app in startup path, and then if it's not, they're gonna say app not in startup path. So I'm gonna build this here. Forgot something here. I need to say. So basically, I'm copying everything that's in this variable inside this variable here. Okay, so I'm gonna build my program and then run. You see it says app not in startup path. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this file. Where did I store this? go to projects, software, and then code blocks, and then storage virus. And then I'm gonna copy this. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open my startup folder. Okay, now I've copied my program to the startup path. Now we're gonna run it. As you can see, it says that we are in the startup path, so our program is working properly now. I'm gonna delete this program. Go back to code box. Okay, and then I'm gonna remove this code here. Okay, and then I'm gonna create another method here. I'm gonna call it start virus. Okay, say void start virus. Okay, now if our app is already in the startup folder, then we're gonna call the start virus. But if it's not, we're gonna call copy self. And then I'm gonna create another method here called it execute from startup. Okay, this function will execute the program that we have copied in our startup folder, which will be the copy of our program itself. So I'm just gonna say void here execute from startup, and then what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna copy this code here, and then I'm gonna call a function called shell execute. I'm gonna go online because I forgot the arguments, so I'm just gonna go online there, research quickly. Okay, and then I'm gonna type shell execute win API. Okay, I'm just gonna copy this. Then for the hwind, I'm gonna say now the operation, I'm gonna say open, and then our file is gonna be cs startup, and then there will be no parameters, directory, and then we say sw show window. Show. Okay, now we're gonna call execute from startup. I'm just gonna show this message box again, just to test whether everything is okay. I'm gonna say is on startup, is executing on startup. And then is not executing on startup. I'm gonna build it here. Okay, is not executing on startup. Okay, is executing on startup. Okay, now what just happened there is that our program copied itself to the startup folder, and then it executed that file that it copied from the startup folder. So that's why you saw the message box appear twice there. So this is working. I'm just gonna remove this. And remove this as well. Now we start with the implementation of wasting memory. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna create a directory by calling the create directory function. Okay, and I'm gonna call it Windows system files. Okay, let me run this. Okay, it has two parameters, so I'm just, for the second parameter, I'm just gonna say now, and then let's run this again. Okay, now I'm gonna go here to check. You see, our directory was created. Now I'm gonna delete this file. Move this code here because we'll need it. Now what's left to do is copy random files to this directory here. Okay, now I've written all the code necessary to complete this virus. The virus is now complete. Okay, I'm gonna explain this code now. Now this code create directory, I think is quite self-explanatory. It's gonna create the directory, and it's gonna create it inside a file called Windows system files. That's what I called it. So that's where we're gonna copy everything there in order to waste our space. Now, in order for you can also set that specific folder to be hidden by calling this set file attributes. So this takes an argument. The first argument here is the path of the file you wanna set the attributes of, and then the second argument is the file attribute. In this case, we want our folder to be hidden, so we say we use file attribute hidden. I'm just gonna comment this because I don't really want to use it. Yeah, I'm just showing you for demonstration purposes. And then here I'm gonna go to this method, waste storage. This is where the core of our virus is gonna take place. Okay, so let me go to this method. Here it is here. Now this will store, we're gonna use this, it's a structure, we're gonna use it to store the files we search for. And then I call zero memory. This is gonna fill everything that's contained within this structure with zero. So so everything is cleared there. There's gonna be no value within the elements of this Win32 find data structure. And then here we have the handle. We're gonna use it to find to list out locations of our files. Like for example, if we wanna find all the files in the Windows directory, we're going to use this to do that. And then this here stores the source. The source is the file that we want to copy, and this is going to store the destination. This is obviously where we want to copy our file. And then here I have the system variable. This is going to store the path to the system directory, which is usually system32. And then I append this here. I need to append this because I'm gonna use it here. So this function here, find first file, it needs to know the filtering of the type of files we want. In this case, we put an asterisk here. So this means we want to list out each and every file. And then this function here, and then we're going to do this in a loop, in an infinite loop. So here I initialize this variable here, hfind. This is going to find the first file. It's going to find our first file. We use it when we want to make a list of files. So in order to make a list of files, we first need to find the first file and then find the next file while using the information we got from the first file. Okay, so this is how it works here. And then here I call zero memory. I'm just using it to clear everything that's contained within this system variable. And then I fill that variable again with the path that points to the system directory, which is Windows 32. And then I append it with the backslash, and then I append the file name. So this code, all in all, is gonna give us a full location of a specific file within the system32 folder. And then this code, basically, this is where we wanna copy our file to. So the destination of our file. So the first thing I do is I copy this variable here, Termination files path, which contains a folder. It points to a folder where we want to copy our files to. So if I just go here at the top, this is where I defined it. So this will point at this location here, C Windows system files. And then I'm gonna call copy file unique. Okay, this is gonna copy the file to our destination, but it's gonna make sure that if the file we're copying already exists in that location, then it adds a different name to it so that a duplicate is created there, but the name will be different. And then here we call sleep for every 40 milliseconds. So I called sleep here so that to decrease the performance of the computer, so that it doesn't, the user might notice that the CPU is working too much. So this is used to decrease the CPU usage here. And then here I'm gonna sleep 2 milliseconds because there are lots of files inside the system32 folder. So when I'm done scanning them, I'm gonna sleep for 2 milliseconds, and then the whole process will go on again. It's gonna be something that never ends until ultimately the user runs totally out of space. And then I just want to show you a method here, a function, a way to okay. And then this copy unique file here, it's gonna check if the source exists. If the source doesn't exist, then there's no point in us trying to copy because it doesn't exist anyway, so our copy is gonna fail. And then here I create a new test. This is I'm gonna copy directly the destination of our path where we want to copy to. And then this is where this code here, this is where I ensure that the file that I'm copying is totally unique. So I'm gonna check if here I check if the destination doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, then I break, because the whole point of this loop here is to ensure that a unique name is created in our destination folder, so that we create a duplicate of this file but give it a different name instead. Okay, and then here I call the Windows API called copy file. This will be the source file we want to copy, and then this is the destination file we want to copy to, and then this variable indicates whether we want this copy file to fail if it already exists. So we're just gonna say true here. It actually personally I don't really care about this value, because now we've already ensured that our destination file is gonna be unique in this method. So this is just to follow. So I only put this value here just to follow protocol. And then I'm gonna go here to file exist. This method will check whether our file exists. If it does exist, then it returns true, and if it doesn't, it returns false. So I'm doing this in such a way that you see here, I open a file for reading. Now this function here, fopen, it opens a file if you want to read it. If it failed to open that file, then it's going to return null. So that's what we're checking for here. So if it's null, then we return false. And then if it actually returned a pointer to this file object here, then it means that that file exists, and so we need to return true, and then we need to close it to free system resources here. Yeah, guys, that's about it. I'm gonna post the link to download this source code in the description. Okay, guys, now I'm gonna demonstrate the effects of this app. I'm gonna run it here. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to the Windows system files. As you can see here, this scroll bar keeps on decreasing, which means files are constantly being copied to this folder here, Windows system files. So yeah, this is gonna go on and on until the user totally runs out of space, or until the user detects this app and close it via Task Manager. Now I'm gonna show you one last thing. Now, as you can see, while running this virus, this command prompt sort of window is showing here. Now I want to show you a way to hide this so that our application operates in a stealthy manner. I'm just gonna close this here. I'm gonna go to project, build options. No, actually I'm gonna go to project and then properties. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go here to build targets, and then for type I'm gonna choose a GUI application, and then I'm gonna say okay, and then I'm gonna build this. I'm gonna build it, Okay, and I'm gonna delete this file here, and I'm gonna run this program. Now, as you can see, nothing is showing up, and then I'm gonna go here to the Windows system files. You see, the program is operating on the background and everything is being copied. Okay guys, thank you very much. Please subscribe and like if you found this tutorial useful, and if you want more tutorials about malware. Thank you very much.